New content, yes, very good indeed, yes, content, yeah. Don't expect it to change much. Hello there, aspiring tennos. Augment changes, right? Exciting stuff. And actually, it kind of is. Let's talk about it. Let's just go through it one by one, and I'll tell you how viable I think these mods are going to be. As some of you probably already know, I've wasted 5,000 hours of my life in this game. Kind of. Some of it was waiting. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at it. First up, we have Ash. Ash has his smoke shadow, and it basically allowed you to share your invisibility with other players. Ash is not a Warframe that you use in a team composition. He's just not, right? He's best for solo play and especially for Endless, and even more so for Disruption, and he's actually great at that. He's one of the Warframes that can very easily reach the level cap without much trouble. Giving him more critical chance doesn't do anything. Trinity really benefits from Champion's Blessing. First up, because it's a more significant buff, it's 350%, but also Trinity is a support frame that already provides a lot, and she does well in a team composition as a healer who's very tanky. Giving her more damage for critical chance is very powerful, but for Ash, not so much. His shadows, his fourth ability deals 2 damage, and it already deals a crap ton of damage. On top of that, bleeds being more efficient on him, and bleeds being the most efficient thing in the game. This is not what Ash needed. Honestly, I don't know how you would, but this had to somehow be reworked in a way that gave this ability specifically more duration. I'm not exactly sure how you would go about that. Maybe every time you do a finish kill, you get 4 or 8 seconds back on the ability or something like that. But this isn't very helpful. So not viable, will not be used, won't change anything. Then we have this one, Atlas, Titanic Rumbler. So Rumblers right now is so pathetic that this is so pointless. I think that if you added a 0 to all of these stats, so your Rumbler would have 3000% more life, deal 4000% more damage, and have 3000% more range, and heck, let's just summon 10 of them at once. I think there's still no way I would use it. It's still that bad that I would not even consider using it. You know, you would have a ton of Rumblers who would be dealing damage in a massive AoE, and heck, they would even be pretty tanky. It would be tough for enemies to kill them, but they wouldn't do any significant amount of damage. The damage is so pathetic. The Rumblers are so bad that a augment that affects their stats can never work. Never. It's pointless. And let me just say, I think even if they added 2 zeros, so you'd have 100 Rumblers with 3000 health, 4000 extra damage, and 3000 extra percent range, I probably still wouldn't use it. So that should tell you just how bad this is. There's a few things you could do to make this viable, but these are mostly numerical changes, nothing substantial, which is fine. I don't think they should be wasting manpower on this so close to an update anyways, as they tend to be completely buggy when they come out. Probably should work on this after the update, but whatever. Maybe if this generated additional armor, additional rubble for you automatically over time, maybe if they would pick rocks out of the ground, which you could then pick up for more armor, or maybe if it increased the maximum amount you could have, something along those lines, that would be really useful. But tweaking the stats, forget it. It's a melee companion. Forget it. Then we have Baruch's Endless Lullaby. Go away, Path of Exile. Don't care about you right now. Now, what this ability used to do is that when you perform a finisher on an enemy, then you would cast Lull with its remaining duration, kind of in the same way that Banshee's resonance augment works, except you'd only have to kill the enemies. Well, now that's also how Endless Lullaby works. However, on the mod it says remaining duration, so if you cast it with 40 seconds duration and you used 35, then you would have 5 seconds left. Killing the enemies would cast a lull with 5 seconds duration. That's not how the mod actually works. The text on it is false, and I don't know if it is the text or if it is a mistake on DE's end, but currently this actually casts lull a second time with its full duration, which is really good. Does this make Baruch overpowered? No, he already was. Does this make Baruch any stronger? No, not really. You could just cast lull. You were still able to get plenty of energy, and still you have to spend an entire mod slot on this. Basically, I think you would replace Equilibrium for energy, and then you'd probably only have to cast lull once every so often, so you wouldn't need all that energy. And I think that would probably allow you a more comfortable playstyle, though your power level would not directly be affected by this. So I hope that they will just remove the remaining duration thing from it and just allow it to be a perpetually spreading debuff, putting enemies to sleep. If they were willing to do that, then I actually think that this would be a pretty okay augment. Not broken in the same way as something like accumulating whip claws, but just pretty good. So I kind of hope they just do that. Then we have this one. It's the goddamn javelin, right? So it gives you more melee damage, which that's not what you need. That doesn't really benefit you. Just having more base damage, not that helpful for Excalibur. That's not what he needs. Not gonna get into the whole damage discussion here, kind of a big question, but honestly, some stages chance, especially dot damage, would be way better on him. Maybe if they increased it from 15 to 50, maybe we could talk. But as it is right now, I'm just not seeing this being useful. So yeah, that's a no for me. Then we have Searching That. Before it gave you 4 combo counter, and now it gives you 8 combo counter. I don't care if it gives me 800 combo counter, I'm not using this. Even as like a meme build, this is still bad on like the end of this spectrum that is meme builds. So it's just bad, and you can't save an ability like this with number tweaks. Some actual change to how this mod works fundamentally has to happen if it's ever gonna see play properly, at least. Then we have Gara with her Mending Splinters. Now, Gara's build, her proper build, is pretty tight, so you couldn't fit this onto her. Oh, sorry about that, Dire Warframe. Now, you'd have to make a build specifically to use this, and I think in a game mode where Gara is very much so wanted and where she primarily plays a supportive role, that would be defense, specifically in arbitration, Mending Splinters can maybe actually be useful in a pre-made squad. So what it says is that before, for each target afflicted by Splinter Storms, heals health 3 health per second. I presume that is to all allies who is affected by it. And the new one is that it heals for 15 instead. So you put this on yourself, you put this on your companion, you put this on your allies, you put it on your allies' companions, you put it on the defense target, and before you know it, you have 100 and 150 healing rate. If you can give this to the defense target, that is not too bad. You'll also be giving them 90% damage reduction. I can kind of see this working in this very specific scenario. You're healing them, you're giving them damage reduction. I still prefer just having a wisp, giving them the healing mode. But if that's not an option, I guess this is a potential band-aid fix. Moving on. So we got Garuda, who's getting a prime very soon. I will probably talk about the changes when she comes out and not before. Maybe before, who knows. Anyways, so killing an enemy with Dread Mirror. So Dread Mirror kills enemies if they're below 40% health. That's fine, whatever. 5 seconds is fucking, that's nothing. That is nothing. So much setup just for a few seconds of unkillability, invulnerability, whatever. There's a difference between unkillable and invulnerable, because you can still kill yourself while you are invulnerable. But and then they say invulnerability duration. Please ignore the terminology is not correct here. But anyways, now it's 8 seconds, before it was 5 seconds. You are gonna be looking around constantly going, where is the next enemy? Where is the next enemy? Because the duration is, it's so short, so much setup. It's a pretty great reward, but you know, you're gonna be able to kill 2 or 3 enemies, and then essentially you will have to go ahead and find a new target. It's not ideal. Then we have this next one, which was already bad, and it's still bad. So we have Wandering Durable. Allies in range take 40% less damage while channeling Durable, and they are granted 5% additional energy charge whenever damaged. I don't know if it's when they are damaged or when you're damaged. Whatever, not that important. So that doesn't do much. Like that 1%, oh, I'm sorry, that 0.5%, not that much. So they increased the damage reduction from 40 to 50. Conditional damage reduction isn't that great to begin with, because when you take a huge hit from a bombard, you don't want to have maybe 50% damage reduction. You want to have guaranteed 50% damage reduction. In other words, you don't want to maybe die. You want to know that you're not gonna die. Now, considering how much Harrow already offers, it's okay for the buff not to be constant, but then when it's active, it should at the very least be powerful. I think maybe if this offered 80 or maybe even 85% damage reduction, because remember, it's not a permanent buff, right? You have to use an entire mod slot to use this, so it isn't built into the ability. It has an additional cost in terms of that. So really bad, really bad. Maybe if they keep increasing this by 10% every week, maybe we'll start using it in a month. Then we have the other Harrow augment. Wonderful. So yeah, basically, if enemies are affected by your chains and then killed by your allies, they will get half of the energy replenishment of your third ability. Now it's 100% instead. I still think this is pretty bad. It's a lot of setup and energy. Most, or at least a very large percentage of builds, especially if you have Arcane Energize, most builds nowadays are energy self-sufficient. And if they're not, you can just throw down a energy pizza once in a while. So if this was me, you could remove the 100%, that's fine. Or you can keep it. I don't actually think it makes that big of a difference. You have to channel a little bit longer, whatever. It's not that big of a deal if you're playing the support in a 4-man squad. However, remove this. Specifically get rid of this. And this might actually be a pretty decent augment. This next one is completely unsavable. And I'm seeing a bit of a pattern here, because this is a summonable minion. Most minions in this game is completely terrible. We have Equinox, her augment, that gives her a clone of herself whenever she switches between day and night, which can be a little bit you know, it's a little bit clunky in terms of that. That's actually okay. That's a okay summoned minion. And then we have Wukong, and his minion is fantastic. That's a great summon. So everything else is bad, and FD is bad, and it's really bad. Now with this augment, remember, you're spending an entire mod slot to be able to recast the ability and deal meager 2000 damage per second to enemies in the path, and then stunning them for a little bit of CC. Now remember, using his fourth ability, the effigy, removes some of your armor, which is your main survivability. So if you're gonna give up some of your main survivability, there better be a damn good reason for it, and this ain't it. Even if this was baked into the ability, like baseline, so you didn't need an augment for it, still wouldn't use it. And the difference now is that you deal 4000 damage instead, and you get some energy back. You know, you can just use raids, right? And then gain back energy whenever you take damage. That's a much more low maintenance option, and you don't have to give up your armor. It's bad. Then we have Hydroid, Corrosive Barrage. I can see a world in where if Hydroid had 3 other great abilities, this could push him over the edge to make him overpowered. Having access to Corrosive for 3 at any given time, that's not bad. Not overpowered or broken or anything, but it certainly elevates the ability a lot. Unfortunately, it's on a Warframe that's completely terrible in every which way. So yeah, this doesn't really do much. The strength doesn't do anything. You're not gonna be able to kill stuff with this. Removing some armor is pretty nice, so you don't have to prime them before using this ability. You can just use it, and it will have 100% ability strength. I guess that this means that I don't know if this scales with ability strength. I mean, if it does, so if you have 300% ability strength, then this gives 100% ability strength to this particular ability. So it's more like double the ability strength. But even then, it's still useless because it just doesn't deal enough damage baseline. I mean, you're playing a survival, you cast this and you deal 5% of the enemy's health. So doubling the ability strength is still not gonna really produce any results. Very bad. Then we have Curative Underthrow. So allies standing in the pool were healed for 30% health every 1.5 seconds. And this increased the energy drain. It no longer increases the energy drain. So this is a really bad ability with a really pointless augment that is now no longer a hindrance, but this does nothing. And installing a mod on your Warframe that does nothing is a death sentence. I mean, you would never want to do that. You know, I think you'd probably, I think Warm Coat is going to be more of a benefit than this augment mod, even in its current state. Before, it actively made you Hydroid worse, which is an incredible feat. But then, you know, now it's just whatever. But putting nothing on a slot is the same as whatever. I'm done. It's terrible. Rework, please. Tidal Impurity. Clear state effects, 12 seconds, you and allies. So the change here is that now it costs 10 less energy, which is so offensive. This ability, it's bad. It does nothing. It's a horrible movement ability. So it's like, now I'm paying 10 energy less to do nothing. Nothing divided by 0 is still 0. And that's the same difference up here with, where is this horrible one for Atlas, right? Titanic Rumbler. Doesn't matter how much you boost the stats, right? You can multiply, does absolutely fucking nothing with 1 trillion. Well, I mean, obviously then it would be broken, but if it does nothing and you just give it some generic number buff, it's still gonna be nothing. Anyways, where were we? We were here. So Inaris used to be super meta. Okay, maybe not super meta, but health used to be king back when shields were really terrible. Just having a fuck ton of health was really good, and Inaris could stack armor alright. That made him pretty damn strong. Nowadays, shield is king and Inaris got none. Too bad, sorry mate. Killing a blinded enemy had a 75% chance of summoning a sand shadow, which was so fucking terrible. I'm sorry, this augment is so uninteresting. Now it has a 100% chance of producing a clone, and it has increased damage. It's doubled, but again, doubling 0. Elemental Sandstorm. Before you had a 50% chance to increase the status. You had 50% chance to apply status based on the element on your melee weapon. Now has doubled that chance, and you have more range on your Sandstorm. This makes this augment infinitely better, and it's still hot garbage. Having this augment on Inaris makes his wee ability so much better. However, while casting it, you cannot perform any other action. So you're giving up the ability to cast your other abilities. Not that they are particularly great either, but you're also giving up the ability to attack the enemies, shoot them with your weapons. You're giving up the opportunity to use your operator state, and applying a lot of status effects could also be achieved. I think I closed Warframe, but it can also be achieved just by using a weapon like the Epitaph to spread status effects. Using the Epitaph and this at the same time is complete overkill. Anyways, so the last one, Limbo, Rift Heaven. Before, allies were healed 25% of the maximum life when entering the rift, and now they are healed for 25% while inside the rift. A very significant improvement. However, and it's a pretty big however, if you are in a mission playing Limbo and there are other people in that mission, don't. Now, if you're playing Limbo solo, Limbo do not need healing. He's not a Warframe which requires healing or who can benefit from it. He's the kind of Warframe that, at least in the Steel Path or in endless missions after a substantial amount of time, if you take damage, you're gonna die. That's the end, right? And if you play Limbo well, you're not gonna take damage. So, I mean, healing 25% of your maximum health is nice, but if you're at 0 health, that's not gonna help you. Anyways, I guess that summarizes this update. The only good change I see here, like the one that I can realistically see people use, is this one for Baruch. Baruch is already very powerful, and he really didn't need anything, I don't think. He can reach level 9099 with a heavy attack build, but just playing him normally for survivals, as you probably would, or defense, whatever, and this missions in the Steel Path, he already deals an insane amount of damage, guaranteed red crits, huge AoE, survivability. What you really want on him is a quality of life change, and I think you could replace your mod that your energy mod, so whether that be flow, whether that be equilibrium, so on and so forth, replacing that with Endless Lullaby probably will not really decrease your efficiency at all, but it probably will make the build a little bit more comfortable to play, even though it was already a one button build. Anyways, thank you guys so much for spending almost half an hour with me. If you like this kind of content, I don't do it often, but you could subscribe. It's an option. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one.